Hi, how you doing? Did you know that when Galileo was working on his Sidereus Nuncius, Starry Messenger, which is the book where he compiled all his discoveries and observations of our universe and Venice, King James was at that same time having his modern translation of the Bible that is still used to this day worked on. They were published within 1 year of each other. So I thought it would be fascinating to review the charts for when they were published and compare and contrast them. I'm especially curious to see what happens with Jupiter and Sagittarius in these charts, as it deals with both scholarly studies as well as religion. But I would like to note that when I normally review the initial release of books or other media, I'm able to find a time of day for the initial releases, but there's no record for when businesses were opening that is that specific for 1610 to 1611. So I have set both charts to 7 a.m., which is what makes sense for when businesses would be opening, as that is when daylight would be rousing people to begin their business. But I will not be discussing houses for this reason, because like we discussed in our video about the laws of astrology, if you do not have a verified time of day, you do not use houses. So let's dig right in. So in this first chart, for Galileo's Sidereus Nuncius, I immediately noticed that Jupiter is conjunct Uranus in Gemini. And this is fascinating, as it is a clear indicator of a book about scientific discoveries made because of an innovative new technology, the telescope. That's Jupiter conjunct Uranus and Gemini stuff right there. And this is sextiling Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, in Aries, reflecting a book that is truly the first of its kind. Jupiter is also the apex of a T-square, with Sun in Pisces and Neptune in Virgo, though the orb is incredibly wide for the Sun to Jupiter. This shows this great effort was done purely with the intent to document the unknown. Squaring Venus implies to me that he could not care less about making money. Mercury squaring Mars in Capricorn indicates that what Galileo truly wanted was to be known as the first man to publish his findings with a telescope. And Jupiter trining Saturn in Aquarius is the clear indicator that he was remembered by society forever for this great work. Now, let's see how the chart for the Bible works out, shall we? Starting with Jupiter again, we see an opposition to the Moon, the ruler of Cancer. The Moon forms a grand Earth trine with Neptune in Virgo and the Sun in Taurus. This reflects to me the prolific nature of this text. Virgo Neptune being the documentation of religious text, and Sun in Taurus being its ultimate fate of eventually landing one copy in every home, even many that aren't religious, and Moon in Capricorn showing its use of establishing a status quo. Before this Bible existed, most people didn't have their own. It was mainly only held in churches themselves. Opposing Jupiter opened the door for a major opportunity, however, which we can see reflected in the T-square. Uranus is the apex of a T-square, with Neptune in Virgo, which sextiles Jupiter, and very loosely with Venus in Pisces, which trines Jupiter. This brand new Bible, that now can be easily accessed by everyone, also happened to be changed in translation in order to fit the society that King James wanted. Neptune in Virgo and Venus in Pisces, both providing a similar effect of the text being obscured, Neptune, and the values being altered, Venus. Cancer Mars and Pisces Saturn are nearly exactly trining, and both nearly exactly sextiling Pluto Taurus. Yet another indication of the goal with this Bible being specifically to mold the spirituality of the original text to the modern society, completely breaking down and rebuilding the values of its teachings. Pluto is also conjunct the Sun, which, as a reminder, represented how it ended up being a book that wound up in almost every household. What I find most fascinating here is how large a role Uranus and Gemini played in both charts, being books that brought out massive change and innovation in their respective circles. Also fascinating, with both books standing the test of time for centuries, we look to Saturn and see that for the Sidereus Nuncius, Saturn was in the scientific and innovative Aquarius, and for King James' Bible, Saturn was in the spiritual Pisces. What do you think about these two charts? Do you see anything I didn't mention? Please comment down below and let me know. I find the similarities and the differences very fascinating, not to mention their close proximity in publishing. And stuff like this just goes on to show why I love studying astrology for works of fiction, or I suppose fiction doesn't really apply to Galileo's record of the planets, or some may say to the Bible. I think the Bible has great lessons, but I think they're meant to be more metaphorical and not literal. But tell me what you think. And as always, have a wonderful day. And if you want to book a chart reading from me, you can always do so at www.dhastrology.com. Have a great day.